Hello there. In this video I'm going to show you how you can make your own personalised charms to put on your own bracelet, and I'm going to assume that the internal diameter here is about 4.5 millimeters. That's what I've always worked to, but you would need to check that. I'm going to show you how you can put this heart-shaped symbol on the outside of this skeleton charm. You could put letters and you could put other objects as well, and you could also use a more solid frame charm as the one in the background, but I'm going to show you how you can do this one in the foreground here. So we're going to use the software Fluid Designer for 3D printing, and I'm going to use this one here, which is the skeleton hexagonal charm. As I say, you could actually use this one, which is the kind of solid charm, and also in addition to the hexagonal one, which is what I'm going to use, there is also an octagonal one, an 8-sided one, a rounded one, and a square one. So, you know, the choice is yours, really. Now, the objects that we can place on the outside of this depends what's on your system. You could add text, for example. You could use one of these objects and append them to your charm. You could add a astrological symbol, for example. So if you're born under the zodiac sign, you can add this object. I'm going to show you how to add a heart symbol. So under patterns heart, so here are the various heart symbols, and I'm going to show you how you can add this one to the charm. But all the other objects are just added in the same way. So if I just go back to charms, so I'm going to use this skeleton hexagonal object, and if I just drag and drop that onto the workspace, and I'll just switch on screencast keys, so any key presses I make should be displayed down here. Now I just need to explain a couple of things about this object. You can see there when I hold down the center mouse button and tilt the screen, there are 6 objects here, and they are in fact all created using a modifier, an array modifier. So in effect there's really just one object which is replicated around that center point there to create the outline for the charm. And it is important that you understand that that's happening. And at the moment it's got a thickness of 1 by 1. So if I remove the thickness, you can see the fact that this is really originally NURBS curves, and you could change the shape of this. So I could make it 1 by 2, 1 by 3. As you can see, that's making a little bit of a mess of it at the top there, so not quite so good. Probably better sticking with 1 by 1. Now, how you actually decide to put the frame around this is up to you. I'm just going to do it a very simple way. I'm just going to use a circle object here, and if I just select that circle and snap it to the cursor, it will move that to the center of the screen there. And if I just go to view and front and then just move that object up to the top there, it should line up with the top. You don't actually have to put one at the top. You could put it around the middle somewhere, and you could use square or hexagonal ones as well if you want. But I'm going to stick to the circular one. And if I just go view and front again, now I need one at the bottom, so I'm going to duplicate this. So I'm going to go to Tools, Object Tools, and duplicate that object and just drag it down to the bottom. So you can see I've got a circle at the bottom, a curve at the bottom, and a curve at the top. And if I hold down the Shift key now and click on the curve at the top, I can go to Tools, Object Tools, and I can join those two into one. Now, usually in Fluid Designer for 3D printing, we would then perhaps hold down the Shift key and join it to the existing frame. But if you do that with this object, you'll have real problems. This frame is actually created, the frame is actually created, as I've said, by creating 6 objects in a circular array. If you join these 2 objects, the top and the bottom, to this object, you will get 6 copies of this wrapped around. And in other words, you'll have 6 circles at the top and the bottom, all inside one another, and you will not be able to get that to 3D print. So don't join these objects to the outer part of the frame. What you need to do is to decide on what thickness you want to apply to this. So in the curve data information, if I set it as a cross section of 1 by 1, which is the same as the outside, then it will all match up. So don't join the top to the skeleton outline there. Not just yet anyway. Now if I zoom in, you'll see that there is some slight errors here, and those errors are there because, you know, depending upon which shape you put in, you will need to modify this frame slightly. So with the frame selected, if I go to view and front view, and if I go into edit mode, actually what I need to do is I need to select that control point there, and if I just zoom in, let me have a look, let me view from the left, yeah, that's better. I need to pull this in to the right here. Now the snap is on at the moment, so if I pull this across, it will jump in snap increments of 1 millimeter. So if I just switch the snap off, if I just pull that across, I want to make it such that my skeleton frame here just fits neatly inside the top there, and that does now. So you will need to readjust that. So if I view from the left again, and I've probably got the same problem at the bottom, you can see, if you're looking closely, it's just sticking out there at the bottom, so we just need to adjust that. So if we just go to view and left view again, and I want to grab the y-axis this time, so if I just pull the y across, you can see I just pull that frame out, and you need to look here and on the inside as well, so you just need it all neatly inside the circle at the top and the bottom. And you can always check it by looking at the wireframe mode, and you can see that it's neatly inside there now. If you want to pull it down a bit further, you can do, and you can adjust it, but you want it sitting inside there nicely, otherwise you could have printing problems. And as I say, you need to adjust that depending upon the shape you put at the top and the bottom. Now we can press the tab key now to come out of edit mode. So we've got our basic outline now. I'm just going to stick to that, and I'm going to add a heart shape onto the outside of this now, and we do that as I showed you. We're going to do it from the patterns hearts. So I'm going to use 009 is the one that I said I was going to use, so this one here. And we do that by going to File and Append, and just go up through the menu system until you get to the Groups folder, where you can see all the patterns and all the objects on your system. And I'm going to use the heart patterns, and I want heart pattern 009, and I always append the object, so it's the heart object that I append from the library. And if I just go to view and front view now, so if I just click on that to make sure it's selected, and you see it's selected when you see the yellow border line around it, I obviously need to rotate this, and I want to rotate it about the x-axis, so I could go over here, and if I just type in 90 degrees there, that will rotate it about the x-axis. So again, if I go to view and front view, now as you can see at the moment it's much too big for this. Now these objects are all NURBS curves, they're parametric smart objects. So if I go to the curve data information here, you can see I can change my cross section from 1 by 2 to 1 by 3, 1 by 4, etc., or 1 by 1 even. I'll stick to 1 by 2 at the moment, which is kind of the default size, but I do need to rescale this. So if I just go to view and front and just pull back that panel, if I press the S key on the keyboard and then drag the mouse inwards, you can see I can rescale this object. So you need to decide what size you want it, and when you're happy, just click with the left mouse button. Now because this is a smart object, you've always in Fluid Designer got to do Control A and apply the scale, and notice the thickness of it returns as you do that. It returns to the thickness here of 2 millimeters, and you can see that in the Z value here. If you don't do Control A and apply the scale, you will have problems if you decide to change this to different values in the future. Okay. Now if you've got access to a really top quality 3D printer, you could always make this much thinner than it is at the moment. Now there are no cross sections here to make it any thinner, but I could add some. I have some files, some objects here that are less than 1mm in thickness, so I could go to File and Append, just go up through the menu system, use the masters that are less than 1mm, and I'll add the rectangular objects. So I could use a cross section of 0.8 by 0.8, or if you've got a really good printer, 0.6 by 0.6. And if I append those from the library and select my heart now, I could change my cross section to 0.8 by 0.8 or 0.6 by 0.6. Now you can only do that depending upon how and where you're printing. Now you're probably going to get away with 0.8 by 0.8 if you print at Shapeways, so I'm going to leave it at that and view it from the front there. So I now need to adjust this and move it out. So yeah, I'll go to View and Top View now. So if I just, I'll just switch the snap back on for a second. If I just drag that out to there, I need to rotate this, and I need to rotate it about the Z axis. That's the axis coming towards me at the moment. And because there are 6 sides to this object, 6 times 60 degrees will give you 360 in a circle. If I add 30 degrees to 60, that will give me 90 degrees. So that's actually the angle that I want to offset that by to make it nice and symmetrical. So we've got a 6-sided object here. 6 times 60 is 360. 30 and 60 gives you the 90 degrees, which gives us a nice offset there and lines it up correctly with the shape of the hexagonal charm. So I now just need to position this, and if I just switch off my snap, and I'll just pull this panel out of the way, the properties panel. So you just need to now fine tune this. Now I don't think it's a good idea to having this sticking out here. So if you just go to View and Top View, if you press G on the keyboard, you can actually grab this and move it around freely. And I would try and line it up nicely so it's evenly spaced, and just get it so that it's overlapping nicely there. And that's then the position of your heart. So you can then add other objects around here, and again tilt them at a Z angle of 30 degrees. So you could put one object here and one here. So you could add your initial here, for example, a letter A, and you could add your astrological sign there as well, to build up your own personalised charm. Now once you've got all the objects that you want, and you've got them lined up, and it's probably a good idea to line them up vertically when you've got all 3 or 4 objects or however many you decide to put on. Once you're in that situation, what you need to do is to go to Tools, Object Tools, and convert this one to a mesh. Don't join the curves together here. If you join this one to the main body, you'll have real problems in trying to 3D print it. It's not how we usually work in Fluid Designer, but it is the case here. So convert the top to a mesh, convert the frame skeleton to a mesh, and then what you want to do now is highlight the heart, highlight the top holding down the Shift key, highlight the wireframe there, and join all 3 of them together, or however many you create. So you've then got one complete object, and the only thing then is to export that as an OBJ file and run it through Netfab Basic. So I'm going to export it as a wavefront object to the desktop, and I'm just going to call this one Charm, and we just export that to the desktop. And once that's saved to the desktop, you only need to go to well, you always must go to Netfab Basic and make sure you run it through the repair procedure in Netfab Basic. So I'm just waiting for that to save. And so I go to Netfab Basic, and if you just go to Project and Open, and I just want to open the charm object. Now, because we've used parametric smart objects here, Netfab should be able to fix on any problems that we've got with this. So you can see there is a warning red triangle, but if I just run through the procedure here and run the automatic repair, you'll see that Netfab has actually fixed it all for me. So we just remove the old parts. So there's our charm, our wireframe charm, in this case just with a heart on it, but you could add other objects in the same sort of way, and I just export that back to the desktop again. And that's it, that's your 3D printable file. So you can add any kind of object to the outside of this as you want. Just be very careful that you don't join the top of the frame to the skeleton outside if you're using these objects here. Alright, so good luck with creating your own. Thank you.